Hello, everyone. Jack and Tu Tien wish you all a wonderful and joyful day. Today, we're taking you back to the peaceful Vietnamese countryside to relive emotional childhood memories, reconnect with loved ones, and witness a heartbreaking goodbye as Mother Loy decides to stay behind while Jack and Tu Tien return to the city. Will this emotional farewell leave Jack holding back tears? Stay with us until the very end, and if you enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our upcoming journeys and stories. Jack slowly walked beside Tu Tien, his hands behind his back as he looked around at the familiar scenery. Every corner of this hometown carried a piece of his childhood. Memories he had never truly forgotten, no matter how long he had lived away from home. "Tien, this is the place I always told you about," Jack said softly while pointing toward the narrow road ahead. "Back then, everything here was much simpler than it is now." Tu Tien looked around carefully, her eyes filled with curiosity and admiration. "Honestly, I really love it here. Since yesterday, I've felt so peaceful. The air feels different from the city." Jack smiled. "That's because life here moves slower. People don't rush all day like we do up there." As they continued walking, they arrived at a small concrete bridge crossing over a quiet stream. Jack suddenly stopped and leaned against the railing while staring at the water below. "You see this bridge?" he asked. Tu Tien nodded. "When I was little, there wasn't a bridge like this yet. It used to be just a tiny bamboo bridge." Her eyes widened immediately. "Seriously? That sounds scary." "It was," Jack laughed. "Every time my mom took me to the market, I had to cross it. It was slippery and shaky. Sometimes I was so scared I'd hold on to my mom's shirt the entire way." Tu Tien laughed softly while imagining little Jack nervously crossing the bridge. "You were probably tiny back then." "Very tiny," Jack admitted, "and skinny too." The two slowly continued across the bridge. On both sides were fruit gardens stretching far into the distance. Mango trees, banana trees, jackfruit trees, and rows of cornfields covered the countryside with endless shades of green. "I noticed there are so many fruit trees here," Tu Tien said. "Most people here grow fruit trees for a living," Jack explained. "Some people sell them at markets, others just plant enough for the family." The deeper they walked into the village, the more memories returned to Jack. Every small road, every old house, every familiar voice reminded him of a simpler time before adulthood and responsibilities. Soon, they arrived at a house surrounded by flowers and vegetable gardens. An older man was trimming plants near the yard. Jack smiled immediately. "Uncle, hi!" The man looked up in surprise before breaking into a wide grin. "Jack, is that really you?" Jack walked over quickly and shook his hand warmly. "Yes, Uncle. I came back to visit everyone." Uncle Hai laughed happily. "You disappeared for so long, and today you even brought your girlfriend with you." Tu Tien politely bowed her head. "Hello, Uncle." Come inside, Uncle Hai said warmly. The small countryside house felt incredibly welcoming. Even though it wasn't luxurious, it carried a warmth that expensive places often lacked. "It's been years since you came back here," Uncle Hai said while pouring tea. "Your hometown has changed a lot." Jack nodded slowly. "It really has. The roads are bigger now. People built new houses too." Uncle Hai smiled proudly. "Everyone works hard little by little." Tu Tien quietly observed the conversation while admiring the peaceful atmosphere. Chickens wandered around the yard freely, and the smell of soil mixed with fresh plants created a comforting feeling she rarely experienced in the city. Uncle Hai suddenly looked at Jack with a teasing smile. "So when are you getting married?" Jack laughed awkwardly while glancing at Tu Tien. "Soon, Uncle. We're still arranging everything." "Well, when the wedding happens, you better invite all of us," Uncle Hai said. "Of course," Jack replied immediately. The conversation continued naturally. They talked about work, life in the city, and how difficult things had become over the years. "You've grown up well," Uncle Hai said proudly. "Back then, you were just a skinny little boy running around this village." Tu Tien laughed. "I can't imagine him like that." "Oh, he was tiny," Uncle Hai insisted. "But he was hard-working even when he was young." Jack rubbed the back of his neck shyly while everyone laughed. After sitting for a while longer, Jack stood up. "Uncle, we still need to visit a few other relatives before going back to Aunt Than's house." Uncle Hai nodded understandingly. "All right. Next time, stay longer." Before leaving, Uncle Hai looked at Tu Tien warmly. "You two look very good together." "Thank you, Uncle," she replied politely. As they walked away from the house, Tu Tien gently nudged Jack. "Everyone here really loves you." Jack smiled quietly. "I grew up with all of them." Back then, neighbors treated each other like family. The afternoon sunlight slowly softened as they continued visiting relatives around the village. Everywhere they went, people welcomed Jack warmly after years of not seeing him. Some elderly neighbors barely recognized him at first. "You're Jack?" one man asked in shock. "You've changed so much." Jack laughed. "I was still a child the last time I stayed here for a long time." "And now you even brought home such a beautiful girlfriend," another aunt joked. Tu Tien became shy every time someone teased them about marriage. As evening approached, they finally returned to Aunt Than's house, where Mother Loy was already preparing dinner with Aunt Than in the kitchen. The smell of homemade countryside dishes filled the entire house. "There you two are," Mother Loy smiled. "Did you enjoy walking around?" "Yes," Tu Tien answered happily. "Jack took me everywhere." Jack immediately rolled up his sleeves. "Mom, let me help." "There's still corn outside in the garden," Aunt Than said. "Go pick some if you want to boil them later." Jack turned toward Tu Tien. "Come with me." The garden behind the house was huge. Banana trees swayed gently beside rows of corn plants. The setting sun painted everything golden. "You used to stay here a lot?" Tu Tien asked. Jack nodded. "I spent most of my childhood here. I used to help herd buffaloes for Aunt Than's family." Tu Tien smiled while carefully stepping through the rows of corn. "It feels nice here." Jack picked a ripe corn cob and handed it to her. "That's why I always miss this place." They spent nearly half an hour harvesting corn while talking and laughing together. Occasionally, neighbors passing by stopped to greet them warmly. One older man suddenly recognized Jack. "Oh, you're Mother Loy's son, right?" "Yes, Uncle," Jack answered respectfully. "You've grown into such a handsome young man." The man laughed. Jack smiled politely while Tu Tien quietly watched the familiar warmth shared between villagers. By the time they returned to the house, dinner was almost ready. Plates of homemade dishes filled the table: boiled chicken, spring rolls, fresh vegetables, soup, grilled fish, and steaming bowls of rice. The entire family gathered together, chatting happily as if trying to make every remaining moment last longer. Mother Loy looked at Jack and Tu Tien sitting side by side, and despite the smile on her face, Her eyes quietly softened with emotion. The warm countryside dinner continued late into the evening. Laughter echoed through Aunt Tan's house while everyone gathered around the table, sharing food and old memories. The atmosphere was simple, but filled with genuine affection that Jack and Tu Tien rarely experienced in the busy city. Aunt Tan placed another plate of food onto the table and smiled warmly. "Eat more? Both of you? It's not often you come back home." Jack laughed softly. "Auntie already cooked enough food for 10 people. "That's because I'm happy," Aunt Tan replied immediately. "You finally came back after such a long time." The smell of freshly boiled corn filled the room while steam rose from the hot dishes. Outside, the sounds of insects and frogs blended together beneath the quiet countryside night. Tu Tien looked around the table with admiration. Even though the meal was simple, everyone looked genuinely happy sitting together. "Honestly," she said softly, "I really love the feeling here." Mother Ly smiled while placing food into her bowl. "The countryside may not have many modern things," she said, "but people care for each other sincerely." Jack nodded quietly. "That's true." One of the relatives suddenly laughed while looking at Jack. "When Jack was young, he ate even more than this." Everyone burst into laughter. "Really?" Tu Tien asked curiously. "Oh, yes," Aunt Tan said immediately. "After herding buffaloes all afternoon, he would come home starving." Jack covered his face in embarrassment. "Auntie, and he was so skinny back then, too," another uncle added teasingly. "Nobody expected him to grow this tall." Tu Tien laughed so hard, she nearly choked on her food. "I'm learning so many," Jack sighed dramatically. "I regret bringing you here now." The entire table exploded with laughter again. As the night continued, the conversation slowly became deeper and more emotional. The older relatives talked about how much life had changed over the years. "Back then," Uncle Hai said while sipping tea, "this village was very poor. Most people struggled every day." Mother Ly nodded slowly. "We didn't have much, but somehow we still managed to raise our children." Jack quietly lowered his eyes for a moment. Hearing those words made him remember everything his mother had sacrificed for him while growing up. Tu Tien noticed the emotion on his face beneath the smile he tried to maintain. Aunt Tan suddenly looked toward Jack again. "So, when exactly are you planning the wedding?" Jack nearly coughed on his drink while everyone stared at him expectantly. "Soon," he answered awkwardly. "We're still arranging work and preparing everything carefully." "You better invite the whole village," one aunt joked. "Of course," Jack replied immediately. Mother Ly quietly smiled while watching the two of them together. Even though she tried to appear cheerful, there was still a hidden sadness lingering in her eyes. Deep down, she knew tomorrow they would leave again. After dinner, everyone continued sitting outside under the cool night air. Some children played nearby while the adults talked about family stories, harvest seasons, and village life. Tu Tien sat beside Mother Ly while gently holding her hand. "Mom," she asked softly, "are you really staying here longer?" Mother Ly nodded slowly. "I want to spend some time in the countryside. I haven't stayed here peacefully like this for years." "You won't feel lonely?" Mother Ly smiled gently. "How could I feel lonely? All my relatives are here." Jack overheard the conversation and quietly looked away toward the dark countryside road. Part of him wanted his mother to return with them, But another part understood how much she missed this place, the hometown where she had spent most of her life. Later that night, after helping clean the dishes, Jack stepped outside alone for a moment. The countryside air felt cool and calming. Tu Tien slowly walked over beside him. "You're thinking a lot, aren't you?" she asked quietly. Jack smiled faintly. "I just feel guilty sometimes." "Why?" "Because Mom spent her entire life taking care of me. But now I barely have time to stay with her." Tu Tien gently leaned against his shoulder. "She understands your situation." "I know," Jack replied softly. But still, the night grew quieter around them. Somewhere in the distance, dogs barked softly while crickets filled the silence. The next morning arrived much faster than anyone wanted. Sunlight slowly spread across the countryside, while Aunt Tan and Mother Loy woke up early to prepare breakfast. The smell of boiling soup and fresh rice drifted through the house. Jack carried the luggage outside, while Tu Tien helped fold blankets and organize everything. Even though nobody said it directly, everyone knew the goodbye was approaching. During breakfast, the atmosphere became quieter than the night before. "So, you're leaving today?" one relative asked. Jack nodded. "I still have work waiting back home." "You should stay longer, if possible." "I wish I could." Mother Loy remained calm while eating quietly beside them. After breakfast, neighbors and relatives slowly came over to say goodbye. Some brought fruit from their gardens, others brought vegetables or homemade snacks for Jack and Tu Tien to take home. "You have to come back more often," an older aunt said. "Yes, Auntie," Jack replied respectfully. "And next time," another uncle added loudly, "bring wedding invitations." Everyone laughed again, helping ease the emotional atmosphere slightly. Finally, the car arrived near the small road outside the house. The moment everyone had avoided was now standing directly in front of them. Jack carried the bags toward the car while Tu Tien stayed beside Mother Loy. "Mom," Tu Tien said softly, while hugging her tightly, "please take care of yourself." Mother Loy gently patted her back. "You too, dear." "Don't work too hard." Jack walked over slowly, trying hard to maintain composure. "Mom," he called quietly. Mother Loy looked at him and smiled. "You don't need to worry about me." Jack nodded, but his eyes were already turning red. "If anything happens," he said carefully, "call me immediately." "I know. And remember to rest properly." Mother Loy laughed softly. "You sound older than me now." But despite the joke, her own eyes were beginning to water. The small countryside road suddenly felt unbearably emotional. For a moment, nobody wanted to speak anymore. Tu Tien quietly stood beside Jack while holding his hand tightly. Mother Loy forced herself to smile. "Go now," she said gently. "If you leave too late, you'll arrive home very late." Jack nodded slowly before stepping toward the car. But just before getting in, he turned back one more time. Mother Loy was still standing there near the bridge beneath the morning sunlight, trying her best to appear strong for her children. That image immediately tightened Jack's chest. The car slowly began moving away. Tu Tien turned around through the window and waved continuously. Mother Loy waved back with a small smile, though tears were now visible in her eyes. Jack stayed silent the entire time, staring back toward the shrinking figure of his mother, standing alone beside the familiar countryside road. The bridge connected not only two sides of the stream, but also the memories of his entire childhood, Voiceover. Sometimes, no matter how far we travel in life, our hearts still belong to the place where we were raised, the hometown filled with childhood memories, and especially the mother who spent her entire life silently loving us. In this emotional journey back to Jack's hometown, Jack and Tu Tien explore the peaceful Vietnamese countryside filled with childhood memories, small village roads, and beautiful fruit gardens. Jack revisits the places where he grew up, sharing touching stories about his difficult childhood and the memories he shared with Mother Ly. Together they visit relatives and neighbors who warmly welcome them home after many years apart. During a cozy family dinner, everyone laughs, shares old memories, and talks about Jack and Tu Tien's future together. However, the happiest moments soon become emotional as Jack announces he must return to the city for work, while Mother Ly chooses to stay longer in her hometown. The heartfelt goodbye beside the old village bridge leaves Jack and Tu Tien struggling to hold back tears as they leave behind the place filled with love, family, and unforgettable memories.